Hey everyone, really excited to chat with you today about expanding beyond spot markets and what the future holds for futures, options, perps, and derivatives in general. We have a really cool group today. Daffy from Mango, or let me go in this order. So Cindy from Drift, Tommy from Sci Options, Kento from UXD, and Daffy from Mango. So maybe let's just start off with you introducing yourselves and what you're working on.
Yeah, for sure. Hi everyone, I'm Cindy from Drift. We're building on-chain perpetual swaps on Solana. Sorry, it's been a long couple nights. So we're using a dynamic virtual AMM, and we're really excited to combine novel DeFi primitives with building great liquidity for perpetual markets on Solana.
And I'm Tommy. I've been an engineer for 9 years. Then started building Sci Options when I got rejected from TradFi to get API access to automate an options trading strategy. And so we're the first options protocol live with an American-style option contract on mainnet, working on under-collateralized Europeans and structured products beyond that.
I'm Kento, founder of UXD protocol. UXD is an algorithmic stablecoin built on Solana that integrates with derivative dexes. We create a delta-neutral position on the derivative dex, and the stablecoin is backed 100% by that delta-neutral position. Yeah.
Hey, it's Daffy from the Mango DAO, the first DAO on Solana. And Mango Markets is currently a borrow lending platform, margin trading platform, perps platform, and a cross-collateralization platform.
Very cool. So one of the things that I think is really interesting, and there's a lot of kind of unique complexity involved, is what are the complexities surrounding building derivatives and options and other sorts of products like that on-chain versus in a centralized exchange? And what are some of the factors that you need to account for when building your primitives and protocols?
Yeah, I think one of the main things, for instance, it's like liquidations. Instead of doing liquidations just simply like from a database, you have to have keepers in a network to maintain a log of all the positions on the blockchain and have them secure the network in a decentralized manner. So I think that's one of the complexities about just building it on-chain versus completely in a centralized manner. So I think there's a lot of dependencies that these smart contracts surround themselves with. And one of these things are bots that have to maintain the state of the network, so make sure that all of the accounts are fully collateralized at all times. There has to be like off-chain triggers to make sure that the on-chain accounts are always collateralized.
I think like one of the hardest things is dealing with like the runtime constraints. I mean, you have these transaction size limits, especially Solana specifically. You have to pass in all these accounts that you're interacting with or reading or writing to. And then you have compute limits. I mean, those are changing in 1.8 and 1.9 coming out. But really taking this idea of what an option is or what a perp is and how we can build that, you really have to figure out how can we build an instruction set that's going to work on-chain and in DeFi. And I mean, people moving over, we have a lot of people from TradFi coming in and trying to build DeFi stuff, and this is the first thing that they run into.
Yeah. I mean, all of what they said sounds. I've struggled with as well. But one of the other things is, there's no KYC, and there's no, there's no accounts. So you can't really ban anyone who, you're like. You can't use that tool. You don't have that tool. And so if any design that you think of has to go through, okay, like what if somebody creates like 10 million accounts? Or what if they wash trade? There's just a whole bunch of, when you're doing things decentralized, a whole bunch of extra precautions that you have to take.
Everyone's an adversary.
Yeah, everyone's an adversary. Which is fun, honestly. Like initially, because like building an exchange has been done, but building a decentralized exchange or decentralized derivatives platform, we're still in the early stages, and that's what's fun about it. Is every line of code has to be thought through for like hours and hours, and you still get exploited. So it happens.
Kento, so I think people are probably very familiar with USDC and stable coins that are backed with fiat deposits, but maybe you can spend a minute walking through how UXD works and what are some of the unique mechanisms there.
Right. Yeah. So like, there's like this problem in stablecoins. It's called like the stablecoin trilemma, and there's currently no stablecoin that's decentralized, stable, and capital efficient. It's hard to achieve all three. Like you have like USDC, USDT, which is stable and capital efficient, but they're not decentralized. And then you have like stable coins like DAI on MakerDAO. I mean, they are relatively decentralized. They are relatively stable, but they're not like capital efficient. Like they're now like, it takes $1.5 of ETH to mint one DAI. And then like now it's like 50% backed by USDC, so it's not even like that decentralized. And then like you have like very algo stable coins like ESD, Basis Cash, which are like decentralized and capital efficient, but not stable at all. So like it's very hard to achieve all three. And like UXD tries to achieve all three by backing the stablecoin 100% with a delta neutral position on a derivative DEX. So it will be decentralized because the whole mint and redeem process is trustless. It will be stable because it's backed 100%, and anyone can mint and redeem the UXD for an equivalent amount of SOL or USDC or USDT. And it will be capital efficient because it's 100% capital efficient. So if you have $1, you can always mint $1 worth of UXD. So we try to achieve all three. And then it also has a native yield. So the delta neutral position yield from the funding rate, the delta neutral position gets interest, and that interest can then be distributed to UXD holders. So there's a native interest on top of the liquidity mining rewards that we will do in the future. So that's like the brief pitch of UXD.
Very cool. So the yield comes from positive funding rates. Is that right?
Yeah.
So what happens when there's negative funding rates in the market, for example?
Right. So we don't want UXD holders to pay a negative rate. So we will have an insurance fund that pays out the negative rate. And so we will have an IDO in like 2 days. And that IDO will all go to the insurance fund. And then, so then that will fund the insurance fund. And also, the insurance fund will be used as, will be invested in LP tokens on stablecoin swaps like Saber and Mercurial Finance. And then like it will contribute to the liquidity of say like USDC, UXD pool. So then you have more liquidity of UXD, and you also get the mining rewards from SBR and MER tokens. And then that will then be distributed to the insurance fund. And also like part of the interest from the delta neutral position can be distributed to the insurance fund. So like there's like all these ways of funding the insurance fund so that the insurance fund never runs out. But if the insurance fund runs out for whatever reason, we will do an auction of the governance token and replenish the fund. Very
cool. So I think as we move beyond spot markets, the title of this panel, there's a lot of primitives that have been established in spot markets. So for example, just at a very basic level, the AMM, and that's been adapted to some extent to the virtual AMM that's used in perps. But what are some of the primitives that have been established in DeFi so far that are being leveraged in derivatives markets, whether it's perps, options, or otherwise today?
Yeah, I think one of our core innovations is, the dynamic AMM. So we build on top of a virtual AMM, and we adapt it towards derivatives markets. So one way that builds on top of an AMM is that your collateral is completely separated from the price curve. So that enables for shorting and for leverage. And the dynamic element ensures that your price always stays within a concentrated range by essentially repegging the curve back to where the oracle prices is, relating back to the concept of oracles. Derivatives always have to settle to a known price or trustless oracle. So a lot of these primitives come from really spot market to derivatives and then to improve on the liquidity and the slippage for derivatives itself. So overall, I think, yeah, these are, I mean, the dynamic AMM is one of the, I think, first primitives that uses this adjustable and repegging mechanism to bring derivatives and trading in a tight range.
Yeah, so I think the VAM or the VMM is like one of the primitives, and Cindy's working on that. The other one that's kind of new to Solana, or sorry, new to DeFi, comes out of Solana and comes out of Serum basically, is the central limit order book, which okay, everyone has had central limit order books. That's like the standard way to do things, but it was just cost prohibitive on Ethereum, and and because of Solana's low transaction fees, we're able to do it. We're able to actually have a central limit order book, and I think, well, we're not going to get in an argument about central limit order books or VAMs, but Mango markets, sort of like one of the differences between Mango and Drift is that Mango uses a central limit order book, and part of it is that I think it's more capital efficient, and there is it can lead to like the best prices because you have a bunch of or the most accurate prices because you have a bunch of competing market makers. But one of the downsides, one of the problems that I'm trying to fix is the liquidity, which Cindy doesn't have that problem. They are, well, the protocol is the market maker in the VAM scenario. So yeah, some of the primitives that we're establishing here, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Psi options is all traded on top of the Serum order book as well. The American options are all represented as SPL tokens, so it plugs into the original Serum. But we also started building our under-collateralized European options on the new Serum core, and so it's kind of this asset agnostic. It doesn't force you to make everything as represented as SPL tokens. So you can get a little bit more closer to like a portfolio and portfolio margining system. So that's really innovative. I think we're going to have an announcement coming out in the next day or so about the Serum core and what that means and what we're doing on top of it.
When Cindy, so there was a lot of chat about order book and versus VAMM. What are you particularly excited about with the virtual AMM?
Yeah, I think going back to the liquidity point that Daphne mentioned, one of the greatest, I think, solutions to liquidity is the VMM, because every single trade is a trade against traders instead of a trade against market makers. So effectively, you have this curve where trader 1 goes long, price moves up by this much. Trader 2 goes short, price moves back, right? So it's effectively replicating an order book, but without having sort of like liquidity sat in the order book itself, because every single trade adds to volume on the platform. So what we're really excited about is the problem becomes not market making or liquidity provision. It becomes more about arbitraging prices back to an oracle price. So we're really trying to incentivize people to keep these prices constant. That's why you see funding rates can be different on Drift and on Mango, because the way that the price discovery is conducted is very different. So we're really excited because this enables, I think, new trading strategies to be developed, where arbitraging between different markets and new trading strategies taking advantage of how the VMM and dynamic EMM is constructed. So yeah, I think one of the things we're really excited about is just how it approaches liquidity as not necessarily a pooled concept, but abstracts it away from price and price action.
Very interesting. And then, so on the option side, liquidity is kind of very complicated and something people are trying to solve because of the fragmentation issue between strikes and maturities. So how is Psi options dealing with that?
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely one of the biggest struggles. I mean, you think oh, we need liquidity on one market, but then when you look, it's okay, we have all these strikes, you have calls, you have puts, and then you have these expirations. So you're just fragmenting liquidity across, eventually hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of markets. And so, I mean, the first thing is capital efficiency, so that way the TVL can go a lot longer, like a lot further in the order book. And so that's where we're moving. A lot of the trading is going to be eventually to that under-collateralized European style, where we make things more efficient. The Americans will always live on. There's a lot of unique things you can do with a physically settled, 100% collateralized American-style option for like incentives and option liquidity mining and all that. And so, I mean, the biggest thing is there is a lot of like options trading going on. It's just most of the volume is actually OTC. We all talk about Deribit, but a lot of the real volume is happening OTC. And I think as we build more structured products, we're going to build liquidity mining into the Europeans. And we have these more abstracted layers that utilize options and the order book underneath for things like impermanent loss, like a VIX-like product that Friction's working on. I think that's going to be the tipping point of where we see more volume and more liquidity on all of the option order books we have.
So we talked about this earlier about one of the challenges building on building in a decentralized way, and if you're building an options platform in a centralized exchange, that's hard. That's like you have because I have friends who are options traders, and they talk about the sheer volume of data that's coming in and all the hookups you have to have. Now doing it on Solana in a decentralized way is like hard plus because we have account size limits, and every account has to be replicated across all these nodes, and even every transaction has to be a certain size. And so I remember talking about like so Sci Options and Mango Markets won the second hackathon a long time ago. I don't know, March, and I got on a call with Tommy, and we were like, oh yeah, we need to be under collateralized, but neither of us knows how. Like, or like, how do you make the options under collateralized? And I was like, man, if you figure it out, like, that's the holy grail.
Yeah, I remember that call.
Yeah.
I was just like, you guys were working on your cross margining, and that was like coming out and going to launch like in the next month. And I just remember like us talking about like how many like assets can you fit into that group? Because just not even cross margining, just like the options portfolio margining, you're already dealing with each thing is essentially like another asset in the spot.
Yeah, and if you think about it, like if you go to Deribit and you look at it, they have hundreds of markets, right? Hundreds of order books, hundreds of assets. And we had that call in March. It was like, yeah, how many can you do under collateralized? Mango at the time I was like 3, but we're gonna work really hard over the next couple of months, and we're gonna get 5. And that was, the state of the tech at the time. Obviously now, we have the capacity, to do like, we're in the 10s, 20s, but we have the capacity to do 100. So we've like come a long way.
Yeah, and I think that's where like the Serum Core and kind of changing the architecture a little bit from the Americans is what is really needed. But it's an interesting problem to solve that we've been working on for a while.
Yeah, next conference we'll be here and we'll be like, well, we need to do thousands. We're at the hundreds range now. We need to do thousands.
Yes.
So it's growing exponentially. We'll do it.
This also actually speaks to a really interesting relationship between options protocols and perps protocols, where you inherently need that connection to properly hedge. So I think we'll see a lot of these protocols working closely together. Kento, on the stablecoin side. So gaining liquidity is a slightly different question. There, it's more about kind of utility of the asset itself to some extent. So do you envision people using UXD as a stable asset when trading? Do you see it more as a yield product? Like, what do you see as the kind of the core priority, at least, or the main use case for UXD, at least early on?
Well, I think like early on, it will definitely be a yield product. So like people will use UXD to earn the yield from the delta neutral position and also from the liquidity mining rewards. And then from there, it will be used primarily in DeFi applications. So we will first partner with stablecoin swaps like Saber and Mercurial Finance. you'll be able to provide liquidity to say like UXD, USDC pool or UXD, USDT pool, and you will earn the trading fees, you will earn the SPR rewards, you will earn the MER rewards, you'll earn the UXP token rewards. So like it will be like this yield optimization product. Later on, I think as it gets more adopted in like lending protocols on Serum, on DEXs, it will become more integrated with the whole ecosystem, and people will become more comfortable using it for trading. So like it will start being used as like Sol UXD trading pairs, and then also in the future, I was talking with Maximilian from Mango. We're talking about like how we can use UXD as the quote currency for Mango. So like the P&L can be calculated by UXD, and like you'll be able to receive and pay off your P&L with UXD. And then as it becomes more and more integrated, the network effects increase, which increases the utility of UXD. So I'm really concentrated on getting more adoption in the Solana DeFi ecosystem in the beginning.
So that's actually that's a little bit screwy. Like I haven't spent much time thinking about it, but if UXD is integrated with Mango, but the quote currency in Mango is UXD,
yeah,
does that work? I don't want to put you on the spot. I like literally haven't thought.
Yeah, it's recursive, but it works technically.
Yeah.
But like UXD will also be backed by perps on like say on Mango, on Drift. Serum is going to have a perp next quarter. Maybe Bonfida supports multi-collateral. Then it will be backed by multiple derivative DEXs.
Yeah.
So it will become more easy for you guys to use as.
So one thing I just thought about was USDC always has this, because it's centralized, always has this risk of censorship and all the attendant risks of being centralized. So maybe Mango goes to being like Bitcoin quote currency, and then UXD comes out of that. I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I'm probably in the minority here, but USD feels like maybe not what we should build everything on top of in the long run. I mean, it's great now, and Mango's built on USDC, but maybe not in the long run. And maybe like my mom will still use it, some like old people, but we'll all be using UXD and Bitcoin.
I'm a big proponent of decentralized stablecoins.
Yeah.
And I think there's many fewer dependencies, and the kind of the canvas for creation is much larger.
I mean, I think like maybe in the future, like Bitcoin becomes like the reserve currency, and like everyone uses Bitcoin or some volatile crypto. But like that's at least like 50 years out. There like 10 years or 10, 20 years, like USD is going to be the reserve currency of whatever we do. Like I don't think there's any way that like unit of accounts are very difficult to change. It's very strong. So at least 10, 20 years, USD is going to be the reserve currency.
Yeah, I think it just depends on like the implementation on chain of that USD representation.
Yeah.
So another question I have, and this is specifically about Solana, is so when you were building these different protocols, why did you pick Solana, and specifically, what are you able to do on Solana that perhaps you weren't able to do on other blockchains, or what attracted you?
Yeah, I think one of the key reasons that we chose Solana in the first place over, let's say, Ethereum or any layer 2s on Ethereum was really the presence of a composable ecosystem. If you're on a layer 2, you're sort of limited by all the other applications on that layer 2. Whereas on Solana, everyone is composable against each other. So that lets us, let's say, if we wanted to do yield on our collateral, we could deposit that yield in, like, say, Jet or Saber. UXE could use us as collateral for the delta neutral farming. And it just sort of like all these little pieces add together, and we think that it's a really positive sum game, rather than being like sort of separated into different ecosystems. And I think back when we started, about 6 months ago, that was like a pretty core reason for us to choose Solana. The other is just, I think, from a UX perspective, depositing still takes you like $200 to get your USD from layer 1 to layer 2, and there's no direct bridge from any layer 1 to any layer 2. So we thought that with FTX being a bridge into Solana, with Wormhole taking off, there would just be a lot more inflows of cash into the Solana ecosystem rather than any single other. And we really love the Solana energy, the Solana community, and obviously we chose Solana because of being able to do parallel transactions and parallel processing, which is one of the most important things for a derivatives protocol that requires high frequency transactions.
Yeah, my decision to jump into Solana was like well over a year ago, before even mainnet had launched. And then once mainnet had launched, I was seeing what Anatoly and Raj were like putting out, like theoretically, of what they could do, and I just thought, if this is remotely possible, this is where I want to be, given getting priced out of a lot of things on Ethereum if you weren't early, and so being a developer, I recognized not jumping all the way in on Ethereum, and I was just like, if this is remotely possible, I'm jumping all the way in here. And then I was hanging out with Tristan from FTX, surfing with him, and he was talking about Serum, what they were building, and what was coming out, and I was just like, all right, I'm sold. There it is. So I knew the order book was already there. Side options wasn't even an idea at that time, but once I had that issue in TradFi where a brokerage denied me API access, I was just like, okay, let me just build options on top of Serum, and it'll plug and play.
I got into Sol because I saw the tweet by SBF where he said, like, sell all your Sol at $3 and fuck off. I was like, okay, yeah, I have to be in Sol. And then we jumped. I'm just joking. Okay, like, to be serious, like, basically what Cindy said, composability is the main reason. So, I mean, it's very easy for us to integrate with, Mango, Drift, and then like Saber, and then like integrating with all these DeFi ecosystems is very easy for us. And then like, for instance, like if someone like, if Mango uses MSOL as collateral, so like if Marinade and Mango kind of integrates, uses MSOL as collateral, then we can use MSOL as collateral to create a delta neutral position, and then we earn even higher yield. And like all of this is like only possible because of the composability thing. So like, yeah, like basically like composability is a big reason we chose Solana.
Yeah, so I didn't think about composability at all. I think I looked at it. See, that's for those guys to worry about. They're composing on Mango.
It's a happy coincidence, the composability.
Yeah, I was just like, so for a long time, I was in crypto since 2016. I was a market maker, but I always wanted to build something, and I wanted to build, a DEX, and for let's say like spiritual reasons. But every time I went into Ethereum, I just realized this is like not going to work. Like you can just imagine, my level of enthusiasm was extremely high, and it was always knocked down. And then I saw again a tweet by SBF, and so I checked out Serum, and this was the first time where I was like, oh, it's okay, yeah, this can work. And then you just have to go in, right? And that's. When you use Serum, you see that like it does feel exactly like a centralized exchange. You don't actually lose anything in that experience. Initially, it was kind of rough. It was a little bit rough, but that concept of like extremely low latency, a latency that you don't notice, and it's fully decentralized, and all that composability stuff, I guess. But yeah, then you have to go in.
So we have about a minute left, but one thing I wanted to just briefly touch on is, in traditional markets, derivatives are much larger in size than spot, and we even see that on centralized exchanges. So when does that happen on-chain, where perps, options, and enabling UXD through those sorts of products, that ends up flipping spot and becomes much larger, like we see elsewhere?
I think it took on centralized exchanges like 5 years or so for that to happen, for that flipping to happen from the start of spot markets to like the development of derivatives. But I think everything's happened at like 5x speed in Solana and in derivatives. So I really think it's just a matter of like getting the right platforms out there. I would say within like, I don't know, a year or two, that's going to be the case.
Yeah, my gut's saying a year or two. I mean, there's just we thought we had this roadmap that we were going to have to build all this stuff out, but we have now, there's just so much capital coming into the space. There's so many teams now that are just coming in and starting to build on Solana and build new things that we thought we would have to be building 6 months from when we started, but now they're just doing it now. We're all working together. And I think that's going to lead to faster adoption, more liquid option markets. And I think that just creates that flywheel that will create more volume coming through derivatives.
Very cool. Well, awesome. This was really fun chatting, and I appreciate everyone here listening. Thank you.
Thank you.